The Antikythera Mechanism. In 1901, sponge divers working off a small Greek island stumbled onto a shipwreck buried under coral and thyme. Inside the wreck, among broken statues and cargo, was a lump of corroded bronze the size of a shoebox. No one thought much of it until the pieces cracked open. Inside were gears, dozens of them, not crude gears, precision cut gears. As restorers slowly cleaned the fragments, numbers, inscriptions, and tiny teeth emerged. When scientists reconstructed the device using X-rays, they realized the ancient world had built something no one believed possible: a mechanical computer. It tracked the moon, planets, eclipses, and complex astronomical cycles. It could predict celestial events with surprising accuracy. Scholars still debate who built it. A student of Archimedes? A lost school of Greek engineers? But the biggest mystery is this: nothing else like it has ever been found. No earlier versions. No later versions. No workshops. And no records. It's as if the technology appeared once and then vanished. The Baghdad Battery. In the 1930s, archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig studied a curious clay jar found near Baghdad. Inside was a copper cylinder, an iron rod, and traces of acidic residue. When filled with vinegar or lemon juice, the jar produced a faint electrical charge. If real, this would be the first known battery from around 200 BC. Some believe ancient people used it for electroplating fine jewelry. Others think it was part of healing rituals. Some scholars reject the idea entirely, saying it might not be a battery at all. But when modern replicas are made, they work. And that leaves a simple, uncomfortable question. Why would ancient craftsmen build a jar capable of producing electricity unless they needed it? The Roman dodecahedron. Across northern Europe, archaeologists keep finding small bronze objects with 12 flat surfaces, each with a hole in the center. They're perfectly made and totally unexplained. They're never described in Roman writing. They're never shown in Roman art. They're found mostly in everyday settlements, not palaces or temples. Some speculate they were measuring tools, perhaps to calculate crop planting. Others think they held candles. A few believe they were ritual items used by local tribes under Roman rule. The real frustration is how many exist. We should know what they are, but nobody does. The Nebra Sky Disk. Found by illegal treasure hunters in Germany in 1999, this bronze disc shocked archaeologists. It showed the sun, moon, and stars, including the Pleiades cluster, placed with surprising accuracy. The disk dates to around 1600 BC, but the level of astronomical knowledge on it belongs thousands of years later. When the artifact was authenticated, it forced historians to rethink Northern Europe entirely. The people who made it weren't primitive farmers. They were astronomers, observers, and record keepers. The real mystery is that we've never found another disc like it, and it stands alone. The Voynich manuscript. In 1912, rare book dealer Wilfrid Voynich purchased an old manuscript filled with strange drawings, plants that don't exist, star charts that don't match the sky, women bathing in green liquid, and page after page of writing in an unknown script. Every decoding attempt has failed. Cryptographers, linguists, even modern intelligence agencies. Some argue it's a medieval medical text, others think it's alchemy. Some believe it's an entirely unknown language, or potentially from another galaxy. Carbon dating places it in the early 1400s, but the author is still a ghost. The Piri Reis map, 1513 AD, Ottoman Empire. In 1929, a group of historians cataloging old maps. Inside Istanbul's Topkapi Palace discovered a rolled-up piece of gazelle skin. When they unrolled it, the room fell quiet. It was a world map, drawn with remarkable skill. Created by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, using sources he claimed came from ancient maps long lost. What made the map so controversial wasn't the artistry, it was the accuracy. South America appeared with a coastline Europeans supposedly hadn't mapped yet in 1513. Even stranger, a southern landmass resembling Antarctica, drawn without ice, something Antarctica hasn't been without for thousands of years. Mainstream historians say the map is a collection of older Greek and Islamic sources, but the real mystery is how those older sources had information no one is supposed to have. If Antarctica really is shown ice-free, then someone mapped the Earth long before recorded history. The Saqqara bird, Egypt. In 1898, archaeologists digging near the step pyramid at Saqqara found a small wooden carving shaped like a bird, with one unusual feature. Its wings were shaped like a modern glider. When analyzed by aerodynamic experts in the 20th century, the toy dated around 200 BC, showing features that mirrored real-life flight design principles, curved wings, a vertical stabilizer, and an aerodynamic body. Some believe it's a ceremonial object meant to represent the soul. Some say it's simply just a child's toy. Others wonder if ancient Egyptians experimented with basic flight concepts. The mystery deepens because no other similar models have been found. One object, one anomaly, and one unanswered question. The Nazca Line artifacts, Peru. The Nazca Line stretches across the desert. Giant shapes carved into the ground. Monkeys, birds, spiders, and long, perfect, geometric lines. But inside, nearby tombs and settlements, archaeologists discovered pottery and textiles depicting the same shapes. This means that the Nazca people created artwork at ground level that perfectly matched the massive geoglyphs only visible from above. No hot air balloons, no aircraft, and no high viewpoints in the region. Yet the shapes are so accurate and proportioned that even modern aerial mapping shows little error. Were they religious offerings? Markers for water sources? Ancient astronomy? Or did the Nazca create them trusting someone or something up there that could see them? The Sumerian King List, Mesopotamia. A clay tablet discovered in Iraq lists ancient kings in a timeline stretching back into myth. Some kings ruled for 1500 years, others for 30,000. Scholars agree the list is real and ancient. They disagree about what the numbers mean. Were the long reigns symbolic? Were they exaggerated for political reasons? Or did they represent a different calendar system? The oldest parts of the list describe massive floods, divine rulers, and a world that mixes mythology with early civilization. The strange part is how consistent the list is. Multiple versions found in different locations all tell the same impossible story. The Olmec colossal heads, Mexico. Scattered across Mexico's Gulf are giant stone heads, each carved from basalt blocks, weighing up to 40 tons. Transporting them across miles of jungle without wheels or beasts of burden would have been a monumental task. But the real mystery isn't the size, it's the faces. Each head wears something like a helmet. Each face shows distinct features, not uniform or symbolic, but deeply individual, almost like a portrait. We know little about the Olmec civilization. They left no written records explaining why these heads were made. They simply appeared in archaeological record around 1200 BC, and fade centuries later, leaving behind silence as heavy as the stone themselves. The London Hammer. In 1936, a couple hiking near Red Creek, Texas found a hammerhead sticking out of a rock formation. The handle was partially encased in hardened stone. When examined later, the stone appeared to belong to formations over 100 million years old. This created two camps. Camp A, the hammer is modern, a natural process trapped it in hardened materials. Or Camp B, the dating is correct, and the hammer is impossibly old. The hammer itself looks like an early American tool, wood handle, iron head, not prehistoric, but the rock that encased it tells a different story entirely. Scientists still argue over whether the rock formed recently or millions of years ago. and until someone proves otherwise, the hammer sits in a strange, uncomfortable place between geology and human history. The Koso artifact, California. In 1961, 3 friends searching for geodes near Olancha, California, cracked open what they believed was a solid stone nodule. Inside was something that shouldn't have been there, a metal object resembling a spark plug. The formation around it was estimated, depending on the method, to be thousands or far more years old. Some claim the object is a 1920s-era spark plug that became encased in concretion. Others insist the concretion is too old and too mineralized for that to be possible. No matter how many times it's studied, no single explanation satisfies every expert. And like many artifacts in this act, it became a mirror people see in what they already believe. The Dorchester Pot, Massachusetts. During a controlled explosion in 1851, workers blasted through solid rock near Dorchester, Massachusetts. When the dust settled, a strange metal vase-like object appeared, sliced neatly in two by the blast. The pot was beautifully crafted, flared, decorated with floral patterns, finely shaped. But the layer of rock it supposedly came from was estimated to be 600 million years old. Scientists question the dating, historians question the origin, skeptics claim a modern pot slipped into the debris, but the workers swore the object came directly out of untouched rock. In the pot itself, no one has ever found another like it. The Nampa figurine, Idaho. In 1889, workers drilling for water near Nampa extracted a small human-shaped clay figure from a depth of 300 feet. The layers below them were believed to be from the Pleistocene era, far older than human presence in North America. The figurine was delicate, detailed, and intentionally crafted. Archaeologists were shocked. How could something human-made appear so deep? Some say the drilling equipment could have carried modern soil downward. Others argue the figurine was sealed in ancient layers too compact to mix. If genuine, they suggest humans were in North America far earlier than accepted timelines. The Wolfsegg Iron Cube, Austria. In 1885, a worker mining coal in Wolfsegg broke open a chunk of coal and found a perfectly shaped iron object inside. The cube wasn't exactly a cube, more like a machined part with flat sides and sharp edges. Coal from the region was believed to be around 60 million years old. Some geologists argue the cube formed naturally from iron nodules. Others believe it's a modern object that somehow slipped into the coal. But metallurgical studies showed a purity and a structure unusual for natural iron formations. No one can prove how the cube got there, and no civilization from that era, human or otherwise, should have been shaping iron. The Crystal Skulls, Central America. From Guatemala to Mexico, a handful of carved quartz skulls have appeared in private collections and European museums. Most were reportedly found in the late 1800s or early 1900s, often with vague stories of lost temples and jungle expeditions. Some skulls are clearly modern fakes, but a few have properties that baffle experts. One skull, known as the Mitchell-Hedges skull, shows tool marks so fine that electronic microscopes struggle to detect them. Quartz is extremely hard. Even modern jewelers say carving it with such precision is nearly impossible without high-speed rotary tools. The mystery is not whether all the crystal skulls are ancient. The mystery is that some show no signs of metal tools, yet are carved better than objects made today. Were these ceremonial objects? Were they symbols of power? Or are they artifacts of a lost craft tradition that vanished without explanation? The Shigir idol, Russia. In the Ural Mountains, peat diggers uncovered an enormous wooden statue in 1894. Once reassembled, the idol stood over 9 feet tall, covered in carved zigzag faces and geometric patterns. Radiocarbon dating shocked the world. The idol was 12,000 years old, twice as old as the pyramids. But the real puzzle lies in its design. Multiple faces, symbolic patterns, intentional storytelling carved into wood. This suggests a complex belief system, a mythic cycle, or a ritual tradition far older than previously imagined. Yet the people who carved it left no permanent settlements, no temples, no language, nothing except this single wooden guardian. It's the oldest wooden sculpture ever found, and it stands alone like a message from a forgotten people. The Rongorongo Tablets, Easter Island. Easter Island is known for its massive stone statues, the Moai. But in the 1800s, a second discovery stunned explorers. Wooden tablets covered in symbols unlike anything else in the Pacific. The script flows in alternating directions, a style called reversed boustrophédon. No two tablets tell the same story. The symbols show animals, shapes, tools, and patterns. Some experts believe the Rongorongo is a genuine writing system, meaning Easter Island, isolated in the middle of the Pacific, independently invented literacy. Others argue it's proto-writing, used only for rituals or memorization. Tragically, when the Europeans arrived, disease devastated the island. The last people who could read the tablets, if anyone truly could, died without passing the knowledge on. Today, the tablet sits silent, with a lost language, culture, and a lost memory. The Phaistos Disk, Crete. Discovered in 1908 inside the ruins of a Minoan palace, this circular clay disc is stamped with symbols, arranged in a perfect spiral. The images include human figures, birds, plants, weapons, and abstract shapes. It might be a prayer, hymn, game, piece of art, calendar, or a coded instruction manual, and no one can say. What makes it truly strange is the symbols are stamped, not carved, suggesting a form of movable type printing thousands of years before Gutenberg. The disc is unique, and no other artifact has ever been found with the same symbols. The Longyou Caves, China. In 1992, villagers in Zhejiang province drained a pond, only to discover a massive hand-carved cavern beneath it, then another, and another. Eventually, at least 24 enormous chambers were found. Every wall is carved with uniform parallel lines, as if someone smoothed the stone inch by inch. But the real mysteries are these. No chisels or tools were found. No construction records exist in ancient Chinese texts. The caves are perfectly engineered. Some chambers are even over 30 meters tall. The ceilings have stood unsupported for thousands of years. Carving these chambers would have required removing millions of cubic feet of stone, yet no debris, pits, or spoil exist near the cave. Who carved the caves? Why and how? The Ark of the Covenant, ancient Near East. One of history's most famous lost artifacts. The Bible describes it as a gold-plated chest containing the stone tablets of divine law. Carried by priests, guarded by armies, and feared by enemies. The Ark was said to possess destructive power, leveling walls, striking down armies, and filling entire temples with blinding light. The Ark's last accepted location was the first temple in Jerusalem, destroyed by the Babylonians in 586 BC. After that, the trail goes cold. Theories multiply. The Ethiopians claim a church in Aksum, Ethiopia says they guard the true Ark, brought there by priests escaping Jerusalem. Some scholars believe the Ark is hidden in a sealed chamber beneath Jerusalem, protected by religious authorities. Others argue it was melted down for gold during the Babylon conquest, but there's never been any physical proof, and no one alive has seen it. Which makes the Ark not just a religious icon, but the world's most sought-after lost treasure. The Holy Grail, Medieval Europe. More legend than artifact, yet countless objects have been identified as the Grail. A cup, a plate, a bowl, a jewel, even a bloodline. In medieval tales, the Grail was the cup used by Jesus at the Last Supper, later carried by Joseph of Arimathea to Britain. It became a symbol of purity, a vessel accessible only to the worthy. Today, several artifacts claim the title. The Valencia Chalice in Spain, the Grail of Genoa in Italy, the Chalice of Antioch, and dozens of medieval bowls and cups. None can be proven, yet none can be disproven. Its power comes from the story, not the archaeology, and the idea that one cup could connect the mortal world to the divine. The Spear of Longinus. Said to be the weapon that pierced Jesus during his crucifixion. Multiple holy lances exist, one in Vienna, one in Armenia, one in the Vatican, and one in Paris. Each has its defenders, and each has its critics. The Vienna lance gained infamy when tied to medieval legends claiming whoever possessed the spear would be unstoppable in battle, and Hitler reportedly became obsessed with it, adding even more myth to an already loaded history. Whether any of these spears are genuine is unknown, but the story surrounding them shows how an ordinary object can become a symbol of power for centuries. The Dead Sea Copper Scroll. Unlike the other Dead Sea Scrolls, which are on parchment and leather, this one is hammered into pure copper. Discovered in 1952, the scrolls list over 60 hidden treasure deposits, supposedly buried before the Roman invasion. The listed amounts are staggering, tons and tons of gold and silver. If real, it would be the single greatest treasure stash in human history. But no treasure has been found. Scholars debate whether the scroll describes real caches, symbolic wealth, or temple funds stored for safekeeping. The scroll itself required delicate cutting to unroll, and its strange mixture of Hebrew and code-like abbreviations has fueled decades of debate. Some believe the treasure still lies buried in the Judean desert. Some believe the deposits were recovered long ago, and others think the list is metaphorical. The Shroud of Turin. The Shroud of Turin is a linen cloth bearing the faint image of a crucified man, long believed by some to be the burial cloth of Jesus Christ. Its confirmed history begins in the 1300s in France, where it suddenly appeared and quickly became both a revered relic and a suspected medieval forgery. By the 1500s, it was moved to Turin, Italy, where it remains today. In 1988, radiocarbon dating placed the cloth between 1260 and 1390, suggesting a medieval origin. Most scientists still accept that date, but the shroud has features that continue to puzzle researchers. The image acts like a photographic negative, contains 3D depth information, and the discoloration sits only on the outmost fibers of the linen. A recent 2025 study has revived one of the most intriguing explanations, that the image may have been created by a sudden burst of radiation or intense light, such as ultraviolet or corona discharge. This theory argues that only a high flash energy could produce the shroud's unusual shading and superficial fiber changes. While it doesn't overturn the carbon dating, it's now considered a definite possible theory with an ongoing scientific debate. Today, the shroud remains one of history's most studied mysteries, scientifically challenging, culturally iconic, and still not fully explained.